The NBA, National Basketball Association, is in America, which is why it's weird that European players are such a big part of the NBA today. I mean, 13% of all NBA players are from overseas, whether that's Europe, Africa, or Asia. 13% are overseas. However, only a very small amount of these players are actually good. In this video, I break down why Europe just sucks at basketball. And I mean sucks. There are 3 good European players in the entire world right now. That is Jokic, Luka, and Giannis. And other than that, you have busts who come from MVP level play overseas, and they just suck in the NBA. So in this video, I break down why this all is and how Europe evolved to be basically a completely different game than the NBA. One reason is that the NBA is just harder than the EuroLeague. I mean, scoring in the NBA is obviously a very, very hard task. And this is because you have the best basketball players in the world playing amazing defense. However, there's also the amount of fouls called. Pros like Luka and Jokic have come out saying that it is easier to score or harder to score overseas because fouls are called way less often. And the NBA has been calling less and less fouls as this season progresses because it is obviously annoying fans. And hey, look, Europe only scores 85 points per game, and the fans love the action. In NBA, now the average score per game is 115 points for each team. And honestly, that is just way too many points. But this still doesn't fully explain why they're bad. Now, one popular theory is that the players in the NBA are just more conditioned than European players. In Europe, basketball games last 40 minutes, while in the NBA, they last 48. Obviously, this 8 minutes doesn't seem like a lot of time, but in those 8 minutes, the game can completely change. 20 points can be scored on both sides, and honestly, 20 minutes is just a lot of time, and to play an extra 8 minutes, you're going to need years upon years of practicing and dedication. And the European players just don't have that in them because they've only played in Europe, where you play 40 instead of 48 minutes. Then there's also the fact that NBA courts are smaller by 3 by 3 feet than European courts. This means that floor spacing is much harder to achieve, and it's just a tighter game in general. There are going to be more people patrolling the paint, and the defense doesn't need to be as spread out as it is in Europe, which makes scoring the ball a lot harder. Now, let's just pick out a specific example because there are a lot of European players playing in the NBA, but one of the more recent players that just came from overseas is Sasha Vezenkov. Now, this guy won EuroLeague MVP last year, and honestly, he was looking very, very good. He signed with the Sacramento Kings this offseason, and this season, he's averaging a few minutes per game for them in pretty good times. He's not just playing in the useless minutes. He's playing in some crunch times, but honestly, he just cannot find his rhythm. Now, yeah, you might be thinking, oh, it's his first season. Let him develop. But his stats say otherwise. Only averaging 5.6 points and 2.6 rebounds on 45-36 shooting, which is a sharp spike down from his Europe numbers. He averaged 17.2 points per game overseas while ranking second in both rebounds and 2-point shots made, 6.8 and 4.4. He led the league with an average performance index rating of 21.2, and he just became the second player after Luka Doncic in 2017-18 to sustain a player efficiency rating of 21 or higher after more than 30 games. He also tied for league lead 8 double-doubles based on 6 games in which he scored 20 points or more while pulling down at least 10 rebounds. He was also chosen for 2 MVP of the Month awards in November and February, And in the playoffs, which is what they called the Olympiacos, he put the league on notice by averaging 24 and 10.3 while they started 4-0, including a sweep through Spain of road wins against two other Final Four qualifiers, and that is the clubs FC Barcelona and Real Madrid, who are very well known in the European basketball community. He also scored at least 13 points in each of his first 15 games in the playoffs, and he put up 24 points one game without taking a single dribble. He's literally the Klay Thompson over there. After that, also in the playoffs, he went on an 11-game tear, which he averaged 19 and 7.6, including a game winner. And this just put the entire league on notice, and that is when he was voted MVP. So why is this success not showing now? Well, frankly, it's because he lost his confidence. Once you play in a league with such good players, and I mean such good players, these are the best players in the entire world, and no one can even come close to them. I mean, look, everyone remembers when Brian Scalabrine held those open tryouts, and no one beat him. That's right, a retired Brian Scalabrine, who averaged 2 points per game, no one was able to beat him. And honestly, Sasha Vezenkov is averaging 5 points per game with only 15 minutes. If he finds a team with a bigger role, he might be able to put stuff together. But for now, it remains definitive that Europe is just bad at basketball. Just bad. But now let's talk about some Europeans who are good at basketball, because we obviously have Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic and Giannis, who's technically from Greece in this league, and they are pretty insane at the game. They developed this way because of the playstyle overseas, and because they were able to adjust so easily to the NBA level. Look, no European basketball player who just isn't naturally gifted will adjust to the NBA. Luka came in his first season, and he was absolutely phenomenal, winning Rookie of the Year. Giannis, however, did not win Rookie of the Year. He was weak. I mean, he weighed basically Wemby's weight, and now he weighs 50 pounds more than Wemby. And speaking of Wemby, we can see that he's taken a significant step back ever since coming from France in this season's draft. I mean, he's averaging 20 and 10, but in France he was averaging 30 and 10 and shooting the 3-ball. Frankly, the NBA's defense is just too good for these overseas players. And yes, while some might argue that Europe is a harder league, it's simply not. This is why Europe has been horrible at basketball for the last infinity years. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.